Hi, I'm Nick Willits, and I'm here with Hesham Fahmy, CIO of TELUS. Great to see you, Hesham.
Great to see you too. Thank you for having me.
Now, today's a very special day. We've just celebrated the fact that TELUS is one of the first operators in the world to be running on ODA. Tell us a bit about why ODA is so integral to your plans for IT. What does it mean to you?
At TELUS, our social purpose is our North Star, right? And we really kind of built the company around how do we bridge the digital divide? How do we create great, improved human outcomes globally? And so to do that, we said we had to start going and working in verticals, innovating in like health, agriculture, consumer goods. And then we came to the next realization, if we want to play there, we've got to start building platforms on top of communications. And so then we realized, okay, we need to start really building platforms and becoming a platform company. And so then we said, okay, what are the platforms you're going to build? Well, the first step is you got to create a bit of an API marketplace. And so we said internally, how do we start doing everything is API first, be software driven. And then we need standardization. And then that's when we said, okay, well, it makes sense then we should basically adopt all the ODA standards, TMF, and make that be the basis of the API marketplace.
Yeah.
So that was kind of our journey and why it's so important, because it's core to, like I said, our DNA and what we want to achieve as a company.
So that's very interesting, because for a lot of operators, they start with looking at legacy rationalization or some kind of cost efficiency play. But this is front and center for you in your strategy to be a platform
100%.
player.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's probably why when you focus only on sort of the cost side of it or technology side, if you have a couple of false starts, you abandon it very quickly. Yeah. But when you realize that this is actually strategic to your outcomes and where you want to go, and it's really outcome driven, you start realizing how much of these are enablers that are going to get you there. And so you stick with it and you really kind of have the determination to see it through.
Now, you mentioned the APIs there. In broader terms within architecture, why ODA? Why do you need an industry standard architecture? Aren't APIs enough?
Well, first you have to say there's good APIs and bad APIs, right? So you have to design good APIs. And if someone's done the hard work for you and designed good APIs, then you should use it. So that's kind of the first reason. The second reason is you need industry adoption. Mm-hmm. Because the more and more you create this, then you build an ecosystem around it. And if everybody invests in it, then all boats rise. And so that's kind of what we said, we need to really be adopting the industry and encourage the industry to adopt it, because all of us will benefit from it. And it creates interoperability from the system providers and the vendors and the ISVs, but also even companies like ourselves. We can start sharing platforms with each other if we're adopting some industry standards.
Now, it's been quite a journey for you to get to the running on ODA status. It's not easy to achieve this kind of mark. So tell us a bit about what's been fundamental for you. What have you got to bring to the team when you're setting out that North Star and saying we need to achieve this status? And why is that important for TELUS?
Yeah, I think, so why it's important, like I said, like we fundamentally believe that this is how we're going to get our destiny and what we want to achieve. In terms of what we needed from the team, I think the first thing we had to realize that this isn't just about APIs, and this isn't about just like implement APIs, but it's more about understanding the why. What are we trying to do? What are the outcomes? And understanding that this is a journey, and it's a journey around mindsets, ways of working as well. And so one of the things we had to do to actually get the APIs adopted is we actually changed our whole architecture model. So the teams really built this new, what we call Arch DevOps, but essentially how does architecture part of your DevOps process? And how do you have architects embedded with the teams, operating with them and sharing that knowledge? And so you set the right framework, for success. And then the adoption of these APIs become a lot easier. And then they start realizing it's not that you're adopting APIs, but these APIs are a means to an end, and they become enablers for what you're trying to do, the higher order kind of value you want to build in the value chain.
What kind of business results have you seen so far from this journey? What kind of improvement are you offering to the business partners?
So it's amazing stuff. Like this year was the first year where we actually saw sort of the momentum really pick up, because what ended up happening is using some of these APIs that we had and everything, we drove convergence. So between our wireline and wireless systems, we're starting to converge, and we have like what we're calling internally the green architecture, but it's the standard saying, how do we simplify and converge everything? And what it also allowed us to do is say, we can converge our channels and go to market as well. And so historically, when we were launching new offerings, we would have to build them on 2 backend systems and on 6 different channels. So you can imagine what the cost was there. This year, we launched a big offering on our Kudo brand. And it was the first time that we did it with 1/3 of what the cost would have normally been, because we built it once and had it running on all channels. And for the first time in TELUS' history, we were able to launch on all channels at the same time on day one. And so that's kind of a historical first. So from the business, that was really impactful in terms of, again, the cost efficiencies. But also they were able to go really big in terms of the marketing, go to market, because they had all channels at parity from day one.
That's some impressive results at this early stage, and I know you've got a lot more planned. In terms of what you need around you to succeed, you said all boats rise, but you're obviously dependent on vendors and system integrators and others. What's your expectation of them in the next few years in terms of really working on ODA and contributing and being conformant to it?
Well, I think part of us, again, winning the award today and everything, I mean, that's our statement saying to do business with us, you need to be ODA compliant. So our ask for all the vendors is now, we only want to do business with you if you're building your products on ODA, because that's how we're going to get interoperability with our other systems. And so that's what we want to see the vendors do. But we'd also like the vendors to do say this is an evolution, right? And as ODA evolves, how are they contributing back? There's a lot of learnings that our vendors can bring from their domains, and how do they be part of the working group that continues to evolve these APIs going forward?
And in many ways, it will make it easier for vendors to suddenly new capabilities and features because they're not trying to plug in some legacy stack and so on.
Exactly.
So a lot of value to be generated there. If there's people today listening who are saying, I'm thinking about doing this, or I'm not sure whether I should take the leap, what would you say to them in terms of how quickly they need to move towards an ODA architecture?
It's not about how quickly you need to be, because I think it's a journey. And I would say, like, we still have a long way to go even on our journey, to really kind of fully adopt it in every corner of the organization. So it's actually having that mindset saying, I know it's going to be a journey, it's going to take a while, but then have conviction. I think you have to be all in on this. So you have to have conviction saying, this is what we're in, here's why we're doing it, we understand why, we're not backing out of this. And then start, breaking down the problem and start, tackling certain domains and adopt them, see the wins like we saw this year with the Kudo project I talked to you about, and build a momentum from there.
Now, as part of this award and recognition, there's also an expectation that TELUS are contributing back into the project. It's very much an open source like project. Tell us a bit about how you've made that happen and why it's important for you to be actually contributing to the development of these standards.
Well, like I said, like, everybody brings domain expertise. Right. So we've been involved with the APIs, for 4 or 5 years now, and trying to contribute back and giving some of our, thoughts and feedback into it. But then as we implement them, we're starting to see areas of improvement or where we can go next. And it's not necessarily even fixing things, but it's like, where do we go next and how do you evolve and get to the next layer and the next value add? And so that's very important for us. If you're not investing in this platform, and all of us investing it in, it will stagnate. Right. And we need this as an industry to actually evolve.
So we get fitted together, basically.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Well, we really appreciate all of that contribution and your leadership, Hesham. Congratulations to you and the whole team once again.
Thank you very much. It was a great team effort, and congratulations to the whole TELUS team.
Absolutely. And we look forward to working together even more in the future.
Likewise. Absolutely.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.